All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Excited to have you join us for our August Community Forum. Today's forum is actually going to focus on our medication query, one of our favorite tools to use. And for everybody who's new to joining, welcome to our community forums. We host these forums once a month on the second Wednesday of every month for 30 minutes. Occasionally, we'll extend them to the full lunch hour if there's a lot we're going to cover. And these forums are always recorded and placed on our YouTube channel, as well as our LinkedIn. So if you ever want to reference back to it or you want to share it out, please do so. We're really excited to have you all join. And I'm just going to go over today's agenda. Very quickly, we're just going to introduce our provider services team, talk a little bit about us and what our roles are with the organization. And then Jackie is going to go in and do a demo of the med query and talk about how to use it, some clinical workflows that help with coordination of care. And then one of the limitations that we have is that the VA medications, the Veterans Association, their medications are not pulling in that med query. However, because we have connections with the Department of Defense and the VA, we are able to still provide that data to you. It just is not in that med query. So we're going to show you how to access that clinical data because we know it's definitely very important. And then lastly, we're going to open it up for a question and answer session at the end. And then we're going to give you some information about how to contact us if you'd like to schedule a demo, like a full demo of the system. Maybe you need a refresher training or a full training for your team. We are all based here on Oahu. So if you want a demo, if you work here if your clinical practice is here on Oahu and you'd like an in-person training, we'd be happy to accommodate that. But we can also host virtual trainings. These are 1 hour training sessions where we do a full walkthrough using that to kind of help you demonstrate how to use the system effectively. One of the things we found through doing these forums and through just the relighting of kind of showing people what's available in HHIE is that we've led to a lot of refresher trainings, people who've used the platform for a very long time. And then they do a refresher training and they realize that they were missing out on some really cool features and a lot of really great data that we now have in the system that they just didn't know how to access. So we'll end the session today with that Q&A. And as always, you can always put questions in the chat. We will be monitoring those. So that way, if there's anything, as we're going through the session, if you want to highlight, I can definitely pause and we can answer questions as we're going. So let me just quickly introduce myself. My name is Clarissa Reno. I am the Director of Provider Services with HHIE. I started my healthcare career as a registered nurse. Well, even before that, even when I was in high school, I was a medical assistant. And then I actually became a pharmacy technician while I was in college. And so medications do have my heart. And then as an RN, I served in med-surg and ER. Absolutely love the emergency room and that kind of speed definitely is around my flow. Once I became a family nurse practitioner, I served mostly in family practice and pediatrics. I did do some acute care, urgent care setting, but my clinical experience really translated well into this provider services space and working with HHIE. Most of my history has been working on the mainland, and I found that I didn't even know that HIEs in general existed, and I just was overwhelmed at how amazing a system like this can be in clinical workflow. That real-time data, getting access to your patient's records without having to wait for faxes, weeks later. We do have a tool called Notify, which is real-time alert notification tool that you base a patient roster and you can get real-time alerts letting you know when your patients have been admitted to the ER, discharged from the inpatient setting, so that you can act and get your patient back into the primary care to help to reavoid those 30-day readmission rates, or even, going back to the emergency room. And so for continuity of care reasons, I absolutely love working and translating the clinical to the IT. I think that's oftentimes one of the things that we see is that these tools that IT systems developed, they're taught through an IT lens.
I cannot, the HHIE. Do you know how to do the audio? I cannot.
Okay, I think we muted. Sorry, guys. But I really love that I get to take that healthcare lens. And when we do our trainings, if you've done a training with me, you know that we, and anyone in our team, you know that we really come from it to get to know who you are, what your role is, and really try to work with you to maximize your time in that tool, because we know time is really precious. So I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly. She's our newest teammate, and just do a brief introduction.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Taylor. As Clarissa said, I'm the newest member of the Provider Services team. My background is in nursing. I worked in labor and delivery and also case management. And I hope to bring that experience to this role so that I can represent a clinical perspective on how to utilize our tools. Um, I also worked in my early years as a unit secretary, so I've got a lot of that EHR experience just under my tool belt, just trying to utilize our tools to better help you guys. And I also run the help desk right now, so if you have any trouble with passwords or with the system and you reach out to the help desk, you'll probably find me on the other end. And I have been taking on some of the CHR trainings. So I train this tool that we're about to delve into, the medicine query. So I have some experience here, and if you're new in on this training, you've probably seen me doing your training. So if you, like she said, if you need any refresher courses or just have some extra questions after this, please feel free to reach out and we will set something up for you. And now I will turn it over to my colleague, Jackie.
Hey everybody, I'm Jackie. I'm also a member of the Provider Services team. I am also a clinician by trade. I like to think of myself as a clinician that happens to work in tech. I am a speech therapist. I worked in geriatrics for almost 10 years in acute care settings and SNFs. And now I work on the back end operation side of the team. I do run our registration portal. So our point of contacts, I've probably been in communication with you if you're on this call, and helping get people added to the system. But if there's ever a need to help with the help desk, I'm also there. And I occasionally do CHR trainings and have used this tool myself. So I'm excited to explain more about it with you. So our medication query is very robust. It's one of our favorite tools, and we know when it goes down because we get alerted from our members pretty quickly. We have people that use this tool every single day. And so I wanted to go a little bit into where the information is from. Our vendor is healthcare systems. And unlike some of our other data sources that are coming directly from a facility, this is a data aggregator. It's going to include information from SureScripts, Allscripts, local and national pharmacy benefit managers, insurance companies, claim adjudicators, and pharmacies. And it's going to take that information and it's going to compile it. And that's where we get the medication query results. This is important because instead of it just being local to the facilities that we have available here, it is a national database that it is pulling this information from. And therefore, it's far more robust in the sense that if somebody comes in, they're coming off the cruise, they're not feeling well, they end up in the ER, you can pull the medication query and you can look up maybe what was prescribed at the Longs in Las Vegas or in Seattle, and try to do your medicine reconciliation that way. Additionally, I did want to highlight in this chart is that when we look at the last column, when it talks about the medication history, the only thing that we have highlighted is this HCS or healthcare systems block. But that is kind of deceptive. There can sometimes be medication information found within our transcribed reports. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not there, but when you want the outpatient robust report that's going to be printable and sorted into one place, that's what the reference is on this chart. This chart is available on our website. It is something that is sent out to all new users. If you don't have it and you want it, it's a really good source of how where to find the information within the CHR. If you don't have, please just let us know and we'll be happy to share the link in the chat. When we get into the CHR, we're going to start off with our medication tab. pretty self-explanatory. We're going to head down to that, the fourth tab, and we're going to look for the blue button. It's usually follow the blue buttons is our claim to fame here when we're doing our trainings. When we see that this blue button is blue and it is available, then that means that we can push it. This medication query, when it pulls in the results, it's going to be a 12-month look back of outpatient medications that were filled, that gets pulled in as your results. If that blue button is gray, that means somebody did that medication query within the last 24 hours. It can only be ran once every 24 hours. So if you get in there and you can't push it, that means somebody recently did it. So what you can do is just take those results and you can use them for yourself. It's historical data. Once we run a query, it's going to live in there until the next query is run. I've gone into the system. I've seen a query that was ran 3 years ago, still displaying the same meds that was pulled on that date. If I wanted new medication, I just go ahead and I click and I can get a new result. So what we would do is we would hit that button. Now, the cool thing about this tool is that it runs in the background. So that means I can go through other parts of the chart while I'm doing this and kind of see what's going on. It's got this nice little alert button on the top. Once we see that that's working, we can then go into other parts of our chart. We always like to say there are two things in CHR that we do kind of have to wait around for. One of them, the documents tab, we have to sit and wait for the results to pull back in. But the medication query, we do not. I can go into other parts of the chart. So when we're going in and we know that medications are going to be of importance to us, we like to say, go in, go to the medication tabs and do it first. And a really great way to, ensure continuity of care is if you received a discharge notification. Say you have our notify tool and it said, hey, your patient was discharged over the weekend from the ER. I can go in there and I can see what medications were on that discharge summary. Then I can go in, once that query has been ran and the results are pulled through, I can now take that and I can look at my results and compare it to the discharge summary and do a medication reconciliation. Did they actually fill the information or fill those recommended medications like they were told to do? Did they not? And then when I do my follow-up visit, because I'm trying to practice good care and make sure they get seen right away, I can ask them about it, and we have an opportunity to make sure those gaps don't get missed. Once the query is completed, you're going to get an alert like this, and it's just going to be the little yellow button, and then you'll see here, like I said, that it's grayed out. That means it's been done, and you'll see the exact time and the exact date. So that's your cue as to when you can run the next query. So that one was ran on 8/10/26 at 8:28 a.m. That means I wouldn't be able to run the next one until the 11th at 8:28 a.m. The cool thing about this, actually we'll go on a little bit, is that once the results come through, they're going to look like this. So everything is going to be available all in this display. And it's really nice. You can, at the top right there, it says view by 20 or all. I personally, whenever I have the opportunity to click that all button, I take advantage of it. And I try to have everything in one place rather than sifting through pages of data. It's just a lot cleaner way to look at it. Like I said, the nice thing about this data is that once I've pulled in those results, they're going to live there. So if I, for whatever reason, accidentally get out of that chart and I go, look at John Smith's chart or whatever it is, and I come back to this one, those results now, because I ran that query in the last 24 hours, they're available to me. This is different than our documents tab where we have to do that query and retrieve every single time. So it's really helpful to know that it'll be living there for you until you're ready to use it. You'll notice there's different columns. You have the medication and strength column, the pharmacy column, the last fill column. All of these are sortable. So when I think about patients and continuity of care, if I wanted to see what is the most recent medication, I would sort it by that last fill date. And you can see what was done, in that time. But another thing I might consider is when I'm talking about like narcotics and those kind of tracking, and I want to know, have they been filling them and at what frequency? I can also sort them by that actual medication name. So I'm going to look at all of my medications at once with that all tab. And then I'm going to go to that medication strength line at the top. I'm going to click there and it's going to sort them. And I can see all at once what medications were filled, the date that they were filled. And I know that the date that they were filled, well, I hope that they're filled. When I click on this little blue button that little blue plus button here at the top corner next to the medication and strength, that's going to expand my results. And this is really helpful when it comes to where our medicine went, was it filled? In this section, it'll tell you the medication, the days it was prescribed, where it was prescribed at, the location. And sometimes when it comes to the pharmacy, it'll even tell you the actual pharmacy it was filled at, like the store number or the address of it. So that can be very helpful. Who prescribed it and the quantity. Now, the last column on the right-hand side, we always give a word of caution because it'll say last fill date. And this is assuming that pharmacies are utilizing best pharmacy practice. And what does that mean? Best pharmacy practice means a prescription gets sent into the pharmacy receives that medication, they prepare the medication, they put it on the shelf, and they wait for that patient to come. When the patient comes into the pharmacy, they scan the medication and they hand it to the patient right then and there. And that scan is what's going to mark it as being filled. However, the reality is sometimes as healthcare providers,
Did Jackie freeze for everybody, or is that just me?
Me too.
Yeah.
Rose from
Okay.
me too.
Me too.
Yeah, she's frozen.
Sorry, everybody. Okay, I'll take over. So what she was saying is that if pharmacies follow that best practice, then that fill date is going to be accurate to the date that the patient actively picked up that medication. But we all know that sometimes pharmacies get busy, and we've all seen it, right? You go to the pharmacy and sometimes that med's just ready to go and you pick it up and you're on your way. There is no additional scanning. And then what happens is a couple weeks later, that med's not picked up, then it's returned to stock. But that doesn't happen all the time. If they follow that best practice, that date should be accurate with when the patient actively picked up that medication. All right, I was going to take over from here anyway, so I guess we'll kind of keep going. So one of the things that I really like about this is we have a print feature. And if you've used our other tabs, you probably know this is available to use. But the print feature, once you've ran a query, you can hit print, which then makes a fillable medication reconciliation form. I love this if you need it. Obviously, this is not something everyone needs, but I love it because it really helps to come prepared for a sit down with your patient. If you, ahead of your visit, you ran a query, you have this list, now you have this fillable medication reconciliation form that you can sit at the bedside. Okay, I see that you're taking this atorvastatin. Are you still taking it? Yes or no? And then if they say yes, how do you take it? When was the last dose? I hate this like back and forth. It's driving me crazy over here. But when did you take the last dose? So that you can really confirm at the bedside with the patient. At the very bottom, it has an open text area for over-the-counters and herbal medications as well. So that way, if your patient has any additional meds, you can definitely fill that in. So kind of one of the things that I really wanted to highlight here is one of the limitations a user brought up to me. So when you run a query, it does a default to a 12-month look back. And so some of them were saying, I'd really like it if once I ran a query, if I could come over and pull down this all records, because that one has a little bit different features. You can do a 30-day, you can do a 3-month, 6-month, or a year, which is what the default is. And so it doesn't work for MedQuery. It works in our other tabs, like the results tab. It will do a search to narrow down. But for the MedQuery, it doesn't. And so this is one of the many things, this is why I love doing what we do, is even though I took this to the engineering team, they're like, this isn't really something we can fix in this existing platform because it is a sunsetted platform. Your team, your provider services team, we're always thinking about these things and keeping them in our minds as solutions for advancement in the future. One of the things we're doing is we are hoping to migrate to a more advanced platform in the next year or so. And I love that, kind of having that hand and having that support. If you come to us with things that you would love to see in the system or things that don't work in this existing system, or maybe we can work together, and we're always keeping those things in mind to work with you guys to really find those solutions that matter. So let's talk about those limitations we talked about in the very beginning. So when you run a medication query, a couple of the features that we do not pull data from are going to be cash pay. And then online pharmacy. This has been a big boom in the last few years with online pharmacies like Hims and Hers and Noom popping up to do things like hormone replacement therapy, GLP-1 therapy. And this is a limitation. And the reason why this is, and I think this, will come as these pharmacies are becoming more prevalent, there will be more structure around how they report these medications, is a lot of them are closed loop systems. They do not report to pharmacy benefit managers. This even happens with things like those GoodRx discount codes. These do not get routed through those pharmacy benefit managers. And so therefore the data is not being pulled when it's running that query. I do expect this to change in the future, like I said, because of the prevalence of using these systems. And so hopefully that will be something in the future we'll see as an improvement. And then one of the things that we've kind of brought notice here recently is that VA filled medications are not populating. We are still receiving medications from DoD pharmacies. Those are military treatment facilities like Tripler, and then also like Kaneohe Bay Pharmacy, which I have an example. It is strictly those VA filled medications. So I do have an example of how it is still pulling those DoD. So DoD, Kaneohe Bay Pharmacy, this is a military treatment facility pharmacy. So those active duty members, their dependents, as well as veterans who get their meds filled at these pharmacies, it's working perfectly. It's also still working for like mail order pharmacy, like Express Scripts. Those are still being pulled in. And a lot of VA members do use that mail order pharmacy. But those who are getting it filled actively at the VA, we are seeing a gap. Now, one of the things that we love is that we do have workarounds. We have a connection with the Department of Defense and the VA to receive those medications, and we get those reports from them. So I'm going to show you how to pull those medications. So this is the lovely documents tab that Jackie was talking about. This is one of the areas where when we do refresher trainings, I'm astounded at how many people do not know that this tab has this much data in it. But when you need to access those VA, DoD, if you're looking for Hawaii Pacific Health, Kaiser Permanente, or even Maui Health System data, you need to go to the Documents tab. So we're going to go to the Documents tab. We're going to select this Find External Documents button. And then it's going to pull up a display like this. It does take a minute. You do have to wait on it. I apologize. This is the only area you do have to be a little patient with. But you're going to click to indicate, yes, this is your patient that you're actively trying to view. And then you're going to hit that Find Patient Documents button. This is going to return with a med query like this. And you're going to see a whole list of all these notes that are coming in, including the different facilities. And then on the right-hand side, you're going to see what type of facility is going to pull that in. You scroll all the way to the bottom, and then you're going to hit Load Selected Documents. From there, you will have now an entire work list to be able to work off of to see all of your patient data. And for the med query, this is going to be the one you want to go to. This summarization of episode note, it says HIE Engine DoD VA. When you click into that note, it's going to open up with a table of contents. This table of contents is definitely what's included in this particular note. And one of my favorite features, if you've done a training with me or even been on our old community forums, you know that I love Control F. Control F is my best friend. Now, medications is usually towards the top, so that's reassuring. However, Control F, you'll get there even faster. So you can Control F, type in that medications, and it'll bring you straight here. This medication area, and you can see just here, it tells you exactly what's here. This is a combined list of outpatient medications from the Department of Defense and Veteran Affairs facilities. These medications provided include outpatient medications from the last 15 months, as well as the patient reported medications. This happens a lot if they're taking like herbals over the counters. It may even pull, like if they say, oh, well, I get a med filled from this doctor outside of the VA. They can self-report those as well. So what you get is a lot of really great information. You get the medications, you get how they take it, you get what it's taken for. I've seen a lot of really great ICD-10 codes here related to why is the patient taking it? Is it for hypertension? Is it for, high cholesterol? You also see when it was ordered, by who, and then where they received that fill at. So it's really great to see that. And again, it does a 15-month period there. So that is like one of the biggest gaps that we have. All the other meds are doing a really great job. And Jackie, thank you so much. I think she was able to jump back in today's call, but I really appreciate all the time and effort. I would like to see, I don't see any questions so far in the chat, but I'd like to turn it over. You guys can unmute and ask questions, or feel free to type in the chat any questions you may have about the medication query. Oh, thank you, Caroline. I love that there's not a lot of questions. That means we covered a lot of the basics. I'm really excited. And as Jackie mentioned, you know, this tool is really helpful. It's probably one of our most utilized features within the community health record. It's definitely embedded in a lot of our pharmacy workflows, especially our inpatient pharmacies. You know, the patient doesn't always show up with the bag of meds to the ER, or as Jackie mentioned, that the patients coming from the mainland, they don't always come prepared with their medications or know what's going on, or maybe they can't speak for themselves. And so this really helps to figure out what's going on with your patient and what medications may be important, because it can change your medication management. It also can help with drug-related interactions, you know, because sometimes you prescribe a medication and you may have the drug-drug interaction that can really potentially even lead the patient back to the emergency room. So this is a really helpful tool to use in your workflow. Since I don't see any questions, I would just like to say thank you. We will host our next session on September 9th at 12:30. So please stay tuned for the link for that one to join. I'm not sure what our topic is going to be just yet. Hopefully, as we get closer to rural health transformation, that will be our topic, but we'll kind of see what comes up. We're really excited for what the future is going to hold. And then I did want to show you guys our contact information. We're all CHR trainers. So if you'd like to set up a training with your team, please feel free to reach out to us to set up a one-on-one, or even like group trainings if you need refreshers. This is a full training on the community health record. We mentioned Notify a couple times in this webinar. So if you are interested in learning more about Notify, I would love to discuss that with you and how it can be used in your clinical practice. And just kind of reach out. This is our contact information. As always, this will be on our LinkedIn page, our YouTube page, and we'll send out the recording to those who are unable to attend. But thank you guys so much for the kind words, and everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.